Before we begin this night prayer, please take a moment to subscribe to the channel and like this video. The house has gone still, and I should be grateful. No voices, no screens humming, no footsteps above or beside me. Everything that once demanded my attention has fallen into hush. The day has spent itself, but somehow this silence doesn't feel like peace tonight. It feels like the absence of something I can't name, like an echo that never had a voice to begin with. And instead of relaxing into it, I tense. I brace, as if the quiet is about to reveal something I've tried not to see. And so I whisper to you here, not to fix it, not to interrupt it, just to stay with me in this fragile hush that carries more weight than I expected. Stay while I lie here, trying not to let old thoughts rise. Stay while I sort through the way the air thickens when I'm alone with it all. I don't know what it is about silence that makes the ghosts louder. Maybe it's not ghosts. Maybe it's truth. Maybe it's the part of me that's been silenced all day by noise. Finally speaking, but whatever this is, I don't want to face it without you. I don't want to try and solve the shadows or silence the ache. I just want to know you're here. That even if the quiet stays strange and the room stays heavy, I won't be left to carry the weight of my own thoughts, because you know how easily I spiral when no one interrupts the descent. You know the rhythm my mind takes when it thinks no one is listening. You know how my heart tries to translate the silence into a story, and it rarely tells a kind one. So please, don't leave me here alone. I don't need you to fill the room with answers. Just don't step away while I wait for the stillness to become safe again. I don't want to be dramatic about it. I know silence can be holy. I've heard people say they feel you most when everything else is quiet, but I'm not one of those people. Not tonight. Not with everything unresolved, still humming under my skin. Not with this aching that didn't go away just because the clock struck bedtime. I want to believe the quiet is sacred, but right now it feels indifferent. It doesn't care if I'm hurting. It doesn't pause to check on me. It just keeps expanding, and I keep shrinking inside it. Unless you're here, unless your presence takes the edge off, unless your nearness redefines what this quiet means. I'm not asking for visions. I'm not asking for dreams. I'm not asking for revelations to rise up out of nowhere. I'm just asking you to not leave, to not look away while I try to slow down, to not walk off while I try to let go, because that's what I'm trying to do. God, I'm trying to let this day go. I'm trying to set it down like a book I've already read 1,000 times. The pages are tired, the plot is familiar, but I still find myself flipping back to parts I wish had gone differently. Scenes I replay, words I regret, questions I shouldn't have let in. They're all here with me now, in this quiet that doesn't know how to hush the past. So unless you're here holding me steady, I will sink, and I don't want to sink tonight. I don't want to end this day believing I'm just a mess with no one watching. I don't want to perform rest. I don't want to act calm while I'm falling apart inside. I want to be held for real, even if the only arms around me are invisible. I want to be soothed by the thought that you're not far. But even if I can't hear a voice in the quiet, you're still choosing to remain in it with me. That you're not annoyed by the way I'm unraveling. That you're not disappointed that I'm not stronger by now. That you're not tallying how many nights I've asked you to stay close. That you're not growing weary of my smallness. I've been so careful not to need too much, but tonight I need more than I can explain. Because something in me is trembling, and it's not just because of the silence. It's because I feel like I'm on the edge of something I can't identify. Like I'm standing at the edge of a deep well with no way of knowing what's inside. And I don't want to fall in, not without you. I don't want to explore the dark corners of this night alone. I want to walk through them, knowing you're beside me, even if you're not saying a word. Your presence doesn't have to be loud to be real. It just has to be near. So if you're already here, make my soul aware of it. If you're already wrapping yourself around me, let my heart catch up. I don't need a miracle tonight. I need closeness. I need the kind of quiet that doesn't erase me, but holds me gently. The kind that listens without rushing me through the discomfort. The kind that whispers, "I'm not going anywhere," and means it. The kind that makes me believe I can sleep without apologizing for needing this much mercy. Because I do. I need mercy. Not because I sinned in some dramatic way today, but because I've carried things I didn't know how to name. Because I've smiled through tension. Because I've stayed silent when I wanted to speak. Because I've nodded and nodded and nodded through things I didn't agree with. Because I've said I'm fine when I wasn't. And all those moments are sitting here with me now, crowding the silence like uninvited guests. I need mercy to not fight them. I need mercy to let them pass through. I need mercy to fall asleep without needing everything to be fixed first. I don't want to fix myself tonight. I just want to rest. And maybe that's the bravest thing I can do. Let the quiet come without bracing, without guarding, without pretending. Maybe if you're here, I don't have to armor up for the silence. Maybe if you're with me, I don't have to over-explain why I'm not okay. Maybe I can stop managing the tension and just let it exist. Let the silence be what it is, and trust that you're not leaving, even if I'm not handling it well. This is the part of the day where I usually hide, where I get lost in screens, or stories, or sound, anything to avoid facing the room without company. But tonight, I'm trying something different. I'm naming what's real. I'm saying it out loud, even if no one hears me. But you, the silence is hard. The stillness makes me uneasy. The quiet brings out everything I tried to bury. But I'm not running from it tonight. I'm sitting in it, and I'm asking you to sit with me. You don't have to speak. Just breathe here with me. Just settle your presence like a weight on the bed, like a soft light in the dark, like a hand that doesn't flinch when it touches mine. I don't want anything grand. I just want the nearness of a God who doesn't mind when I'm tired, who doesn't require me to be deep or strong or wise at the end of a long day. I just want the nearness of you, not a solution, not a plan, just you. In the quiet, in the ordinary night, in this moment where everything in me says, please don't leave. You know the corners of my heart where I hide things even from myself. You know the small betrayals I carry, the ways I abandoned parts of myself today just to get through. You know the grief I swallowed too fast, the joy I didn't let myself feel, the anxiety I disguised as productivity. You know how loud the silence becomes when all of that is laid bare. So I offer it now, not to solve, not to fix, just to be known. If you're still with me, then none of it has to make me afraid. So stay, not because I earned it, not because I performed the day well, not because I deserve divine company, but because you said you would, because you're the God who doesn't leave when the music stops, when the people leave, when the lights go out. You stay through all of it, and I am leaning on that now, not because I'm strong, but because I'm out of options. And in that emptiness, in that weakness, in that total lack of control, I find something that feels like surrender. I find something that almost feels like peace, and I trust that you'll meet me there, in the quiet that still feels like too much, but maybe isn't too much for you. So I close my eyes now, not because I feel ready, but because you're here. I release this day, not because it resolved, but because I am held, and I welcome the quiet, not because it's softened, but because you stayed. It's strange how something so still can feel so full. This room isn't making a sound, but my chest is echoing like it's been waiting for hours to be noticed. And maybe it has. Maybe I've been carrying too much quiet inside me all day without realizing it. The kind of quiet that doesn't calm but corrodes. The kind that doesn't invite peace but slowly eats away at it. And now that all the other noise is faded, it's the only thing I can hear. That slow hum of inner silence that somehow feels like a warning. Not the warning of danger, but of being forgotten, of being unseen in the stillness. And that's why I keep turning to you, God. Not because I need the night to change, but because I need to believe. You see me in it, that you're not waiting for me to speak eloquently, or pray perfectly, or show up with clarity, that just my being here is enough for you to stay. I'm learning that not all silence is the same. There's the silence that feels like rest, and then there's this, the silence that feels like distance, like I've knocked on a door and no one's coming. I know you're not gone. I know you don't abandon, but I also know what it feels like to sit in a silence that doesn't return the favor of comfort. And when that happens, I get tempted to fill it, to reach for anything, any screen, any task, any voice that will pretend to make the emptiness feel safer. But what if this moment isn't asking to be filled? What if it's asking to be trusted? Trusted enough to not run from it. Trusted enough to stay inside it long enough to find you again. Because I believe you live even in the silences that feel hollow, even in the moments when my own heartbeat is the loudest sound in the room. You never promised that silence would always feel holy, but you did promise presence. And maybe that's the quietest promise of all, the one that doesn't shout, doesn't prove itself, doesn't break through the fog with fireworks. It just is. It breathes. It lingers. It doesn't apologize for being subtle. And maybe you're here now in ways I can't name. Maybe you're showing up in my willingness to whisper into this silence at all, because it would be easier to shut down, to turn away, to assume that quiet equals absence and numb myself until morning. But here I am, praying, not because I feel brave, but because I'm desperate for closeness. I've known nights when the quiet felt like sanctuary, but this isn't one of them. This quiet feels raw, exposed. Like every part of me I managed to hide during the day is standing under a spotlight. The thoughts I avoided, the fears I minimized, the doubts I pushed into the background, they've all found their way back in now, that nothing else is talking over them. And I need you, not to fix them, but to sit with me while I face them, to prove you don't only stay when the silence is peaceful, but even more when it's painful. Sometimes I wonder what you think of these nights. When I ask you to stay, do you already know how long the ache will last? Do you already know whether I'll fall asleep crying or finally exhale? Do you see the end of this silence even while I'm drowning in the middle of it? I want to believe you do. I want to believe you're not nervous about how I'm unraveling, that you're not frustrated by how long it's taking me to release the day, that you're not keeping count of how often I need reassurance. I want to believe you're just here, unmoving, patient, kind, because I'm not proud of how tangled I am right now. I spent hours second-guessing things I can't change. Reliving conversations, wishing I'd spoken up, wishing I hadn't, wondering if I'm too much or not enough. And this silence isn't answering any of those questions. It just sits here with me while I ask them, louder and louder in my mind. So I need you to be the softness that absorbs those questions without judgment. I need you to hold space for my overthinking without turning away. I need you to remind me without a single word that I'm not failing just because the quiet feels heavy. And maybe that's what grace looks like tonight. Not relief, not clarity, not even peace, just the quiet belief that I'm not abandoned. That you can be here with me and not demand I come out of this moment clean. That you can sit in this mess with me and call it holy ground. That you're not afraid of how dark it feels inside my thoughts tonight. That you're not waiting for morning to show up before you draw close. No, you move toward the ache. You move toward the stillness that scares me. You walk into the silent places I avoid, and you wait there until I remember how to breathe again. There's something sacred about that. About a God who doesn't leave when I fall silent. A God who doesn't need me to fill the space with praise before showing up. A God who listens to my silence like it's a song, who receives my stillness like a confession. Maybe I've underestimated what it means to be known by you. Maybe I've assumed I have to speak to stay connected, but you understand things I haven't put into language yet. You see the longing in the way I reach for you without sound. You read the fatigue in the way my shoulders slump and my hands lie still. You hear the ache in my pauses, and that knowing, it changes everything. It tells me I'm not lost, even if I can't find the right words. It tells me I'm not alone, even if the silence stretches on. I've always wanted to be the kind of person who welcomes silence like a friend, who lights candles and closes her eyes and feels connected. But tonight, I'm not that person. Tonight, I am restless, afraid, vulnerable, and I want to ask you something bold. Don't use this silence to teach me a lesson. Don't use it to test me. Don't use it to shape me. Just use it to hold me. Let this quiet be the space where I fall apart without consequences. Let it be the place where nothing is required of me. Let it be the night where you love me for no other reason than I'm still breathing. Because I need that kind of love right now. The love that lingers, that doesn't need a resolution. It doesn't ask for strength. It doesn't wait for me to get better before offering comfort. I need the kind of love that walks into the quiet, sits down beside me, and simply stays. The kind that doesn't flinch when I admit I'm not okay. The kind that doesn't need me to be okay in order to stay. That's the love I trust you to give. That's the love I want to believe I can rest in. And maybe this silence, this uncomfortable, echoing quiet, isn't here to punish me. Maybe it's here to clear the space. Maybe you're preparing a place where nothing else gets to speak but grace. Maybe all the noise I've clung to has been crowding you out. And now, even though it feels disorienting, this silence is finally letting you come close again. Maybe what scares me most about the quiet is also what saves me in it. There's room now for you, for truth, for the tenderness I forget to let in. So I'll stay. Not because I'm comfortable, but because you are. I'll breathe through the quiet even when it tightens around me, because you are here somewhere in it. And even if I can't find you tonight, I trust you're finding me. I trust you know what to do with this silence. I trust you're not wasting it. I trust you'll carry me through it, not around it, not over it, but right through the center of it, until I stop flinching when it falls. And maybe when the morning comes, I'll look back at this night and realize you were never far. Maybe I'll see that my fear of silence was just a misunderstanding of what silence can hold. And maybe, just maybe, I'll come to love these moments, not because they feel good, but because you never left. So stay still. Stay while I sleep. Stay while I wrestle. Stay while the silence speaks. And I'll learn to stop fearing its voice. Stay while I rest without answers. Stay while I loosen my grip. Stay while I forget to pretend. Stay while I find the courage to be exactly who I am in this quiet and know that you call that enough. Maybe silence was never the enemy. Maybe it just became one because I was never taught how to be still without punishment, how to sit in my own skin without fear rising, how to let the quiet in without assuming something must be wrong. So many nights like this have made the silence feel like a verdict instead of a resting place. And it's not because you made it that way, it's because I did. Or maybe the world did, with all its noise and urgency and expectation, that stillness must always be productive. But I'm here now, in this tension I don't yet understand. And I need you to be the one who teaches me a different way to hear this quiet, not as danger, not as abandonment, but as something that holds space for healing too slow to name. There's a part of me that wants to ask you to break the silence, to interrupt it with something unmistakable, a word, a dream, a sign that settles the questions. But another part of me, the deeper one, knows that what I need isn't volume, it's presence. It's something strong enough to stay even when nothing's being said. I've spent so much of my life trying to make silence end, talking over it, filling it, avoiding it. But what if you're in the parts I keep trying to escape? What if you're not found in the noise I use to drown out my fear, but in the courage it takes to sit in the hush and not run from what it brings up? I think of all the ways I've feared my own thoughts, not because they're evil, but because they're too loud when I'm too tired. Thoughts that replay things I've done or left undone, conversations I regret, hopes I've buried, dreams I've stopped naming. And at night, when the distractions are gone, they all return like they've been waiting backstage all day. And I don't know how to manage them. I don't want to be overwhelmed again. So I keep returning to this one thing. You are not overwhelmed by me, not by the questions, not by the spiral, not by the way I can't just flip a switch and feel peaceful. You're not asking me to be tidy here. You're just asking me to be honest. So here's the truth. This night is long. This silence is loud. This heart is tired, but I am still yours. And if you're still here, I can make it through this hour, maybe not with elegance, maybe not with poise, but with hope. And maybe that's the secret the silence holds. Not answers, but the kind of hope that only grows in spaces where nothing else is loud enough to drown it. A quiet hope, a slow hope, a hope that learns to breathe in the dark even before the light comes. And I wonder now if you've always been doing this, sitting with me when I thought you were gone, standing near when I was too anxious to sense you. Maybe you don't always announce your presence. Maybe you slip in like breath, unnoticed, but essential. Maybe you're the rhythm beneath my worry, the pulse that keeps beating even when I forget what I'm anchored to. Maybe you're here now, and I've simply forgotten how to recognize you when you're not speaking. But even then, you don't leave. Even when I forget how to see, you stay. Even when I beg for noise to come and save me, you stay silent. And not because you don't care, but because you are patience itself. And I don't know how to receive a love like that. I'm used to proving, to earning, to justifying my right to be held. But you're not asking for that. You're not measuring my worth by how brave I am in the quiet. You're just offering yourself over and over again until I stop fighting the silence long enough to notice. So tonight, I want to practice something new. I want to stop trying to fix the silence. I want to stop fearing it. I want to stop assuming that stillness means you're distant. I want to try, just for this hour, to let the quiet be something that holds me instead of isolates me. To believe that if you're here, then even the silence is safe. Because if you can make a grave into a doorway, you can make the night into a refuge. If you can stand in the middle of a storm and say nothing until the wind quiets, you can stand beside me now and let your nearness be enough. I don't need the silence to change. I need to change how I sit in it. I need to change how I speak to myself in it. I need to remember that stillness doesn't mean forgotten, that quiet doesn't mean forsaken, that emptiness doesn't mean unloved. I need to believe that you see the me that no one else sees, the one that only shows up when everything else fades, the version of me that's not performing, not pleasing, not strong, not insightful, just breathing, just here. and somehow still fully. And even as I say all this, I know tomorrow I might forget. I might wake up and run right back to the noise. I might fill my day with tasks just to avoid meeting myself again in the quiet. But maybe tonight will plant something small. Maybe it will root something deeper than fear. Maybe I'll learn to return to the silence like a sacred place, not because it always feels good, but because it's where you meet me as I am. I'm letting go of the need to control how this night feels. I'm not going to demand it become peaceful just to prove you're near. I'm not going to demand that sleep come quickly or that thoughts disappear. I'm just going to let this be what it is. A night with you in it. A night where quiet doesn't win or lose. It just holds. And you keep holding me. If you are the God who formed light, then you also know what it means to wait in darkness. If you are the God who speaks the stars into place, you also know how to sit in the silence of a world that hasn't woken yet. And so, I trust that you're not uncomfortable here, that you're not pacing while I search for rest, that you're not impatient for me to calm down, that you're not measuring my faith by how quickly I fall asleep. I trust you're here just because you want to be, just because you love me, just because you don't leave, not in the daylight, not in the chaos, and not in the quiet. So I breathe again, slowly, gently, not to reach peace, but to reach you, to remember that each breath is a yes to your presence, a yes to staying, a yes to letting the night unfold without a script, a yes to trusting that even the silence is held by hands that do not let go. And I know this silence won't last forever. Morning will come, sound will return, the world will pick up its pace again. But when it does, I want to carry something from this night. I want to carry the knowing that silence isn't a threat, that stillness isn't something to flee, that you are as present in the hush as you are in the hallelujahs, that your love is steady even when nothing else is. There's something almost holy about this ache, not because it feels sacred in its own right, but because I'm not running from it. I'm letting it rise, letting it breathe, letting it be seen by you. And maybe that's all this night was ever about, not escaping the silence, but staying still long enough to let it teach me something honest, not to shame me, not to shape me into someone better by morning, but to show me who I am without all the layers I wear in the light, and who I am. God is tired, tender, and still somehow yours. It's easier in the daylight to pretend I'm composed, easier to blend in with noise and rhythm and responsibility, easier to explain away the unsettled parts and convince myself they don't need tending. But here, when it's quiet, there's no audience, no performance, just me. And this silence that refuses to flatter or distract. And you, if you're here, are not asking me to hide, not asking me to be brave, just asking me to stay honest, even if that honesty is awkward and slow and wordless. So I'm letting go of the idea that stillness is supposed to feel good. Maybe it's not about comfort. Maybe it's about clarity. Maybe it strips away everything that pretends to be peace until only the real thing remains. And that's the ache I feel right now. The shedding of false peace. The falling away of shallow calm. The silence here isn't comforting yet. But maybe it's healing. Maybe the parts of me that relied on distraction are finally falling asleep, so the deeper parts can finally rest too. I keep thinking about the ways you moved through silence before. You didn't always speak right away. You let your people wait. You let them cry out. You let them sit in deserts where nothing echoed but their own need. But you never abandoned them. And if I'm part of that story, then this quiet doesn't scare you. It doesn't interrupt your plan. It doesn't shake your nearness. You're as present now as you've ever been, even if I haven't learned how to feel it yet. So I won't demand that the silence leave. I won't try to force it into something it's not. I won't panic just because it's stayed longer than I expected. I'll keep breathing here. I'll keep trusting that you are not frightened by what frightens me. I'll keep choosing to believe that even silence is seen by you. That even this moment, empty of answers, full of ache, is not wasted. You do not waste nights. You do not waste waiting. You do not waste weariness. If you're the God of all time, then you're also the God of this hour, this room, this breath. And I know it might sound small, but staying here matters to me. Not leaving this moment, not numbing it, not abandoning myself, staying, even when it's hard. And if you're staying too, then I'm not alone. Even if the room feels cold and the night feels longer than it should, I'm not alone. And that's the difference, isn't it? It's not about whether silence exists. It's about who stays in it with me. So I let this be a night where not everything is solved, where not every thought is calmed, where not every fear is named, but you are still here. Even if I'm not fully aware of you, even if I can't define what you're doing, even if all I can do is close my eyes and whisper, "Don't go," you stay, and the staying is enough. I've lived through long silences before, and I've always thought the goal was to escape them, to break them open, to survive them until something better came. But tonight, I want to learn to live in the silence, not just through it, to see it as a space where your hands still hold me, even when they don't move. A space where your presence doesn't perform, but rests. I want to stop treating silence like a void and start treating it like a room you've invited me into. Maybe this quiet is the only place I finally slow down enough to notice what I'm really afraid of. That I won't be comforted, that I won't be known, that I won't be worth staying for. But you undo all of that, don't you? Not with speeches, not with fireworks, just with presence, just with the soft, stubborn nearness of a love that doesn't pack its bags when I fall apart. A love that sees the mess, sees the tiredness, sees the wall I've been leaning on collapse and doesn't move an inch away. That's the God I need tonight. Not a distant, all-knowing deity who's watching from some safe place of serenity, but a God who leans close, who hears the trembling under my breath and does not flinch, who sees the chaos I barely kept at bay today, and instead of judging, simply stays. And I don't know how long this silence will last. Maybe it will stretch until dawn. Maybe I'll fall asleep before it softens. Maybe I'll wake tomorrow, still unsure of what it meant. But that doesn't mean it was meaningless. Not if you were in it. Not if you chose to stay. Not if you turned this hollow room into holy ground by not leaving when the atmosphere got heavy. There's something I want to say to you. Even if I don't say it well, thank you for not needing me to be okay. Thank you for not placing conditions on your nearness. Thank you for choosing to stay in rooms where others would walk out, for waiting in the quiet instead of filling it with instructions, for being a God who doesn't rescue through escape, but through endurance. Thank you for not rushing this night, for not hurrying me into healing, for letting this silence be slow, sacred, and I'm learning that rest isn't always about comfort, it's about trust. And I trust you, even when I don't feel relief, even when nothing shifts, even when I'm still holding my breath. I trust you, because you've never once walked away from my weakness. You've never rolled your eyes at my panic. You've never used the silence as a punishment. You've used it as presence, and that changes everything. So I won't say I'm not afraid, but I'll say I'm not alone. And that, somehow, is enough. I won't pretend this silence is my favorite thing, but I'll say it doesn't scare me the way it used to. Not if you're in it. Not if you've made a home here with me tonight. Stay still. Stay without fixing. Stay without noise. Stay without needing me to get it right. Stay until this quiet turns into shelter instead of threat, until it stops feeling like the absence of sound and starts feeling like the presence of peace. Stay because you want to, not because I earned it. And maybe, just maybe, I'll wake tomorrow knowing that I don't have to fight the quiet, that I can live with it, that I can meet it again without fear, because I've met you here and you didn't leave. I've stopped asking for the quiet to go, not because I've made peace with it fully, but because I finally understand something deeper. It's not the silence that ever needed to change. It was what I believed about being alone in it, and you, without ever raising your voice, have unraveled that fear, not with answers, not with a resolution, but with the kind of presence that holds stillness like a hand held out in the dark. No pressure, just nearness, just a quiet invitation to believe I'm not left behind when everything else fades. Because you didn't leave, not when I trembled, not when I waited for words to come and none did, not when I felt invisible in a world that thrives on sound. You stayed, and something inside me is beginning to believe you always will. That there is no hush too heavy for you to enter, no silence too deep for you to hear what I can't even say, no night too long for you to outlast with love. And that love, it hasn't looked like I thought it would. It hasn't swept in with thunder or lit up the room with sudden clarity. It hasn't chased away all fear or filled the space with a miraculous calm, but it's here, gentle, low, steady, like breath I didn't notice until everything else went still, like a warmth that didn't need flame to be real, like a voice that didn't need to speak to be trusted. That's how you move in silence, isn't it? Not with declarations, but with decisions. You decide to stay, even when I don't know how to reach for you. You decide to love, even when I'm uncertain if I deserve it. You decide to remain near, even when I'm doing nothing more than laying here, tired and wordless. And that decision is my refuge. That choice is my comfort. That unwavering nearness is what keeps me from unraveling tonight. I think I expected comfort to be louder. I thought peace would come with more drama. I believed maybe the quiet would become soft only after something changed inside me. But nothing huge has shifted, and yet this room no longer feels like a void. It feels inhabited, not just by me, but by you. And somehow that's enough, not because the silence has disappeared, but because it's no longer empty. It's no longer a threat. It's become a place where mercy lingers, a place where I'm not measured by strength or silence or the neatness of my prayers, but by your willingness to stay with me, even when nothing in me knows what to say. You saw me tonight. That's the thing I keep returning to. You saw every part of me I didn't voice, every knot in my chest, every flinch I tried to hide, every thought I didn't dare follow too far. You saw me fight the quiet at first, saw me try to wrestle peace out of it, saw me beg for some interruption, some sound to prove I'm not forgotten. And you didn't scold me, you didn't pull away, you simply remained, patient, present. And in doing so, you undid the fear that said I needed to be someone different to be held. So this quiet, it's not my enemy anymore. It's not a test. It's not punishment. It's the space where you met me as I am. Not fixed, not strong, not victorious, but present, open, ache still alive in my chest, but not unbearable anymore, because you're here. And that's not a cliche tonight. It's my only peace. You're here, and I don't have to rise above anything to stay near you. That changes the story of this whole night. It rewrites what I thought silence meant. I used to think it meant absence. Now I see it might mean intimacy. I used to think it was evidence of distance. Now I see it might be the ground where trust grows, and trust, God, is what I needed most. Not relief, not even sleep, but the quiet belief that you stay, that even when nothing resolves and I remain full of questions, you choose me still, you sit with me still, you let the stillness be real without making me feel like I've failed to pray well. This, maybe more than anything, is worship. Not singing, not speaking, not striving, just staying, letting myself be seen without a script, letting you remain near even when I have no words left, letting the night end without tying it in a bow, letting grace be grace, that is, undeserved, unforced, quietly enough. So I won't wrap this with certainty. I won't pretend the quiet turned to light. But I'll say this, I'm not afraid of it anymore. Not tonight. Not in this moment. Because you've made it familiar. You've made it safe. You've made it yours. And if the silence belongs to you, then I have nothing to run from. I have nothing to fear. Not even my own thoughts. Not even the stillness that used to feel too loud. I might still tremble in future nights. I might still reach for distractions before I remember this peace. But something in me is rooted deeper now. Something in me remembers that you don't walk out when the sound dies down. You move in. You sit close. You wait with me through the hush. And when the morning comes, I won't rise alone. I'll rise with this memory etched into the quiet parts of me. The God who did not leave, not when I was loud, not when I was desperate, not when I was silent, not ever. So if the quiet lingers, let it linger with you in it. If the silence deepens, let it deepen with grace. If the words don't come, let love fill the gap. If I drift into sleep still holding questions, let it be your hand I'm holding too. Let my final breath tonight be trust, not in what I can understand, but in the God who sees me, even here, even now, even in the silence. The night hasn't ended yet, and even though I thought it might, thought maybe the stillness would unravel, the silence would shift, the weight in the air would lift, I find myself still here, in this same dark room, same gentle hum of nothing, same stretch of quiet that no longer scares me the way it once did, but still presses against my chest in a way that asks me to notice it. And so I do. I lie here, still breathing beneath it, and I let it touch me without flinching, because maybe this part of the night isn't meant to be avoided. Maybe it's not an interruption or a delay. Maybe it's part of the way you love me, slowly, deeply, without sound. There's a kind of reverence that's come over this room, though nothing has changed. The lamp is still off. The air is still unmoving. No sudden answers. No signs. But something in me feels different. Like I've finally unclenched a fist I didn't know I was making. Like my soul stopped trying to leave the moment and finally let the moment hold it. And in this stillness, I sense something deeper than rest. I sense permission. Permission to be undone. Permission to not perform healing. Permission to exist in the middle of an unfinished thought and not hurry it along. And that somehow feels like the beginning of peace. Not peace as a conclusion. Peace as a posture. Peace as a person. And that person is. I never knew stillness could feel like surrender instead of shame. But maybe that's the difference you make. You don't stand at the edge of my silence and wait for me to impress you. You enter it, barefoot and unhurried, and you don't say much. You just sit. You let the hush breathe. You let my thoughts wander and settle and rise again. You let my pulse steady in your presence, and you don't leave. And that, I think, is the miracle I never thought to ask for. Because I've spent most of my life feeling silence, talking through the tension, explaining away the ache, covering up every crack in my composure with words and busyness, and a smile that said, I'm fine when I wasn't. But now, here, in this quiet that hasn't asked me to be fine, I feel something different. I feel seen, not the curated version of me, but the real one, the one who still worries too much, who forgets to hope sometimes, who wants to trust you more than I actually do, the one who's grown so tired of pretending you see her and so the silence no longer feels like exposure. It feels like being known without being named, without being solved, without being sent away to clean myself up. You don't ask me to leave my unspoken pain at the door. You don't shrink from the sadness I haven't yet put into words. You sit inside it like it doesn't offend you. And I'm learning, slowly, that it doesn't. My sadness doesn't scare you. My confusion doesn't startle you. My silence doesn't disappoint you. You are fluent in things left unsaid. I wonder how long you've been this gentle with me. How many nights you've stayed while I stared at the ceiling, never realizing you were closer than the blankets wrapped around me. I used to think you were waiting for me to speak, like I had to earn your company with proper prayers. But you were already here, weren't you? In the breath I didn't know I was holding, in the tears I didn't let fall, in the stillness I tried to escape. You were waiting, but not impatiently. Waiting like a friend who doesn't need to be the center of the moment, just wants to be present in it. So now, I let the room stay quiet. I stopped trying to fill it with noise or meaning or explanation. I stopped trying to twist the silence into something I can control, and I just let it be. I let myself be, because you already have. You've let me be small, be unsure, be unfinished. You haven't asked me to wrap this night into a lesson or extract some moral from the stillness. You've just let it hold me, like you're holding me, not with pressure, not with answers, just with presence. And it's not that I feel better, not exactly, but I feel less alone. And that, for tonight, is more important than relief. I don't need every weight to lift. I just need to know I'm not the only one carrying them. And somehow, in this silence, I know that's true. I know you are not far, not in the way I thought, not waiting on the other side of the noise, but here, now, inside the quiet, with your heart pressed close enough to hear mine. There's a strange kind of safety here, one I didn't expect. A safety that says I don't have to resolve everything by sunrise, that you're not working on a deadline, that if it takes me a lifetime to understand what's unfolding in me, you'll still be here, not pacing, not correcting, just being, just loving, just staying. So I let the night stretch on without resistance. You let the questions stay open. Let the ache exist without panic. Let the silence speak without assuming it's accusing me. And I trust, now more than ever, that if you're in it, it's not empty. It's not dangerous. It's not a failure of faith. It's a space where faith can grow. Not because it's easy, but because it's real. And I need real. I need something truer than resolution, something deeper than understanding, something wider than comfort. I need you, not because I can't function without you, but because I wasn't meant to, because my soul was never designed to carry silence alone, because you, more than any sound or word or fix, are what turns the stillness into sanctuary. So stay still. Stay while the questions remain unspoken. Stay while I forget how to pray. Stay while the night continues without closure. Stay when my thoughts loop and my breath shallows. Stay when I feel like I've lost the thread. Stay when nothing feels resolved, but everything feels held. And if I fall asleep in this silence, Let it be like falling into your arms. Let the hush wrap around me like something sacred. Let my final thought before the dream comes be this: I am not alone in the quiet. I never was. I never will be. Not because I am strong, not because I am faithful, but because you are. You are the faithful one, the silent healer, the companion in stillness, the keeper of what I cannot yet name. It's something I didn't expect about being held in the quiet for this long. I thought I would grow restless. I thought the stillness would stretch too far, that eventually I would break beneath its weight, but I haven't. And maybe that's the miracle. Not that the silence ended, not that it finally spoke or turned soft or shifted into something I could explain, but that it didn't undo me. That I stayed, that you stayed, that nothing came rushing in to fill the hush, and somehow I'm still here, breathing, trusting, letting the stillness be what it is, and feeling in some quiet part of me that maybe it's starting to become holy. I never knew how much strength it took to be still without reaching for an escape, but now that I've tasted it, I can tell there's power in this kind of surrender. Not the loud, triumphant kind, but the grounded, anchored kind that doesn't panic when nothing happens, that doesn't rush to turn silence into sound or waiting into meaning. It just rests. It just breathes. It just believes, softly and without spectacle, that if you're here, that's enough. I don't need the silence to teach me anymore. I'm not trying to harvest wisdom from it. I'm not turning it into a metaphor or a test. I'm not bending it into a tool for transformation. I'm letting it exist, and that alone feels like a kind of freedom I didn't know I was allowed to have. To live in a moment that doesn't demand growth. To lie in a night that doesn't demand clarity. To be held in a hush that simply holds back with open hands and no demands. That's where I found you again and again. Not on the other side of insight, but in the middle of the unanswered. I've thought a lot about what it means to be loved here. Not because I'm showing promise, not because I've endured the silence well, but because you just love, because that's what you are. And love doesn't need to be earned in the quiet any more than in the chaos. It just is. And maybe I'm finally learning how to receive that kind of love, not as something I collect like a prize, but something I sink into like a bed that knows my shape, like warmth that doesn't ask me to shine back, like presence that doesn't expect perfection. That kind of love changes everything about the night. It turns this long, quiet moment from something to survive into something to be with. It doesn't mean the questions are answered. It doesn't mean the ache is gone. But it means I'm not defined by those things. I'm not weighed by my silence. I'm not graded on my peace. I'm just here, and so are you. And that is the beginning of a night. If there's a whisper left in me tonight, it's not a request. It's not even a prayer in the old sense. It's more like an exhale with shape, a breath that carries memory, a silent confession. I'm tired, and I trust you. I'm undone, and I'm still yours. I don't know what happens next, but I know who I'm held by. And that knowing, quiet and wordless and deep, is all I need. I don't want to leave this place too quickly. I don't want to close my eyes on the hush before I've let it be what it needs to be, before I've let it write on my spirit the truth that you are just as real when you're quiet as when you speak. That stillness is not silence's absence. It's its center, and you dwell in the center. In the middle of my waiting, in the middle of my wondering, in the middle of every unsaid word, and you don't seem bothered that I haven't found my way out yet. That's what stuns me most about you. You don't push. You don't pace. You don't pull me through the silence like it's a test I'm failing. You walk with me like a companion who's never needed to rush. Like someone who knows that the quiet isn't the enemy of connection. It's the place where it roots deepest. So I give you this silence again. Not to manipulate it, not to turn it into something beautiful, but to say, I trust you in it. I trust you when the light hasn't come. I trust you when the stillness stays. I trust you when my hands are empty and my words are gone. I trust you when I'm not performing, not achieving, not even trying. I trust that you are who you say you are, even in the moments that feel like nothing, because they're not nothing. Not if you're in this moment, this silence, this breath. It's all held by you. It's all touched by the kind of love that doesn't need to impress or explain. And I think that's what I'll carry with me from this night. Not an answer, not a breakthrough, but a deeper belonging. A quiet assurance that no silence I walk into from here forward will ever be empty again. Because you filled this one. Because you stayed through this one. Because you let it last long enough for me to learn how to be in it and not run. So stay still, God. Stay without words. Stay like a shadow that doesn't frighten. Stay like a presence that doesn't press. Stay like breath, like air, like the hush between heartbeats that keeps everything alive. Stay like you always do. Not because I ask, not because I deserve it, but because it's who you are. And if I sleep now, let it be not because I escaped the quiet, but because I finally trusted it enough to close my eyes. Because I finally trusted you enough to let go. Let the silence rise. Let the hush deepen. Let the stillness hold. Let the night continue with your love at the center of it all. I'm still here, God. The night has almost made its full circle, and I haven't moved far, but something in me has. I don't know when it happened. Maybe it wasn't one moment, but hundreds of small ones. Quiet recognitions, subtle shifts, soft surrenders. I didn't know I was making. Maybe this entire night has been one long letting go of the fear, of the need to be loud, of the pressure to explain, of the belief that silence meant I'd been left. And now, with the sky not yet turning, and the stillness still wrapped around me like a second skin, I can say it honestly. I'm no longer afraid of the quiet, not because it's changed, but because I have. The quiet has become familiar, like a language I once forgot how to speak. It's no longer a blank space to be filled, it's a resting place, a meeting place, a space where nothing is required of me but truth. And truth isn't always beautiful. Sometimes it's tired, sometimes it's messy, sometimes it's just me, lying still, breathing slow, offering no explanation but the weight of being alive. And that's what I bring you now. Not a testimony, not a breakthrough, not a brave new version of myself, just presence, mine, yours, no barrier between them. I don't know what this night has been in the grand scheme of things. I don't know what it will leave behind when the light comes, but I do know this: it held me. The silence I feared, it held me. The quiet I fought, it steadied me. The absence I misread, it became the clearest place I've ever met you. And now I carry that knowing, not like a memory, but like a mark, a soft impression on the inside of my spirit, a reminder that you do not leave, not when I fall apart, not when I can't speak, not when the world goes dark and I grow small. You stay, even when it's inconvenient, even when I'm inconsistent, even when I forget that staying is what you do best. You stay, and that one truth, pressed deep into the fibers of this night, has changed something in me I can't put back. I don't want to. I've learned how to breathe with you in the dark, not just to survive it, but to rest inside it. I've learned that not all silence is silence. Sometimes it's shelter. Sometimes it's softness. Sometimes it's the voice of God disguised as stillness. And sometimes it's not even Sometimes it's just quiet, and you're still in it. Not speaking, not fixing, just staying, just being, and that's enough. There were nights I begged for sound, for signs, for clarity, for something to prove you were still near. But tonight I stopped begging. I started listening, not for a voice, but for a presence. Not for an answer, but for a wait. And I found it, or it found me, and now I know how to find it again. I know how to return to the silence without fear, because I've been through it, and I found that you don't just tolerate my quiet, you honor it, you dwell in it, you shape it into something I can finally trust. So before this night turns over, I want to say one more thing, not because I need to conclude, but because I want to remember that here-ness, that quiet kind of closeness, has saved me more times than I can count. Saved me from spiraling, from self-loathing, from drowning in the noise I created to avoid myself. You saved me, not by pulling me out of the quiet, but by joining me in it, sitting beside me with no expectations, letting me learn that love isn't louder than pain. It's just more patient. And now, as the sky begins to shift just slightly, I feel that patience like a rhythm beneath the hush. I feel it settle into me like a final word that doesn't need to be spoken. I feel it stay even as I begin to drift towards sleep. I'm not clinging anymore. I'm not bracing. I'm not trying to hold on to what this night has been. I'm letting it pass through me, gently, the way it always intended to, the way you let all things pass with tenderness. I used to think faith was about speaking boldly into the dark, but maybe sometimes faith is just lying down in the quiet and believing you're still here, still holding, still keeping, still being God in every silence that comes after the noise. And if that's what this night has taught me, then it's more than enough. So stay with me now, not because I'm afraid, but because I've learned how beautiful it is to rest beside you, not demanding a word, not expecting a miracle, just knowing I'm not alone and never will be again.